It's the final match of the evening. We're on Frost, or the final best of 5, I have to say. Spawning to the bottom right position in purple, the best color for Protoss. Playing for Rival Gaming, it's Koshkii. And spawning to the bottom left in orange. And sadly for some people we don't have Mitsukotse here pronouncing somebody's favorite word in German. It's the Terran Miyako playing for LDLC. The infamous Miyako has already torn through all of her opponents. She hasn't dropped a map yet in the season. Is leading the leaderboard with 2-0 and 6-0 in games, in maps played. So let's see if Koshkii can at least take one map off of her, if not even the series. And this is going to be quite interesting because Miyako hates Protoss with a passion. There's really no other race in StarCraft she hates more than Protoss. Especially Protoss when they abuse proxy builds or early pushes or 2-base timings or whatever. So this is going to be quite an interesting match. The grudge is already you can already feel it. So, in the meantime, Koshkii just trying to find her opponent with the probe scout, unfortunately just scouting her at the last position. Miyako's already taking her face base down here, her natural base. In the meantime, we have just normal builds by Koshkii, doing the standard gateway expand into Cybernetics core and then a second gas. And in the meantime, we have an early factory out for Miyako. Miyako, instead of the typical Reaper that Sylvanas normally does, goes for a Marine first. Sometimes she even plays a Reaper, but most of the time we've seen her play a Marine first. And then also going into the reacted barracks, and then the factory, maybe even into a starport right behind this, while taking the second refinery. So, yeah, and there it is, the starport and the mine. So actually a base build quite similar to that the Sylvanas is normally doing against Zerg, but also against Protoss. And it's going to be a mine drop into Koshkii's mineral line, which might be quite interesting, but Koshkii is already going for the robotics first. That's a typical standard build for Protoss. You always want to have the robotics bay first because of the potential threat, not only of mines, but also of Banshees. Of course, Banshees not that common in that matchup. You don't see them that often anymore, but still, mines are always a danger. And you always want to have something against those, so you need the early detection, and that's why most Protosses just start with the robotics facility. You can of course try to cut it, but it's always a risk. If your opponent actually goes for mine drop, and you didn't build a robotics bay first, a robotics facility first, sorry for that, you just instant die. You can just leave, actually, because the mine will just sit there, deny a lot of mining time, kill maybe off a lot of probes, so yeah, you will just lose so much time. Oh, Dark Shrine, very early Dark Shrine here by Koshkii, not trying to get any tech out of the Twilight Council, except for the necessary building. So this is probably going to be quite interesting, because the medevac is now moving out. If Miyako drops at the right position, she's going to spot that Dark Shrine and will be prepared. If she doesn't, she's very vulnerable to that, because she doesn't even have an engineering bay yet. So this might cause the first rage, ladies and gentlemen. It really depends on how well Koshkii is going to hold this first push, but there's a mothership core out with a lot of energy, so has to be careful if that pylon goes down. Ooh, Koshkii immediately retreats everything, just pulls one probe apart, but Miyako is clever enough and quick enough to just unburrow that mine once more so it doesn't fire, and she still has that shot available. So denying a lot of mining at the moment, but Koshkii also wants to wait a little bit more, even builds a photon cannon over here, so she will have some detection over here as well. She doesn't want to leave. Where's the observer from here? Did she get it killed? Where's the observer? Oh no, there it is, down here at the second base. So now we have a tank as well here, finally firing up that pylon cannon over here. But you can't really engage right now. Koshkii just waiting for some more, and now finally even a missile turret goes down so that the DT won't be able to make something happen. Yeah, Miyako just, wow, very clever of her. Miyako just actually deliberately saved up some scans in order to be able to scan for these pesky DTs here. And now there's actually nothing that Koshkii has back at her own base. She's just went for the tech so fast, so incredibly fast, that she didn't even have any units left. Really depended on the DTs and her photon overcharge to do the damage and to seal the deal, to do the trick. But yeah, with the missile turret in close range and some scans still available, the DTs just don't do what's necessary. They just don't dish out the damage that needed to be done. And now the Nexus is even going to fall while Miyako has her second base up and not contested at all. So it doesn't really look good for Koshkii right here. Miyako just read her opponent like a book there. My god, that was convincing in that case. Like, it was just the perfect counter build. There's nothing to it without even seeing it, right? I mean, that's, yeah, she didn't even see the Dark Shrine, but still just went for such an aggressive opening here. And yeah, like I said, now finally finishing the second missile turret as well, so the DTs won't even be able to get close to that tank even more. Yeah, even the Liberator now can shoot at the units that try to get down that ramp, and Koshkii is hard contained at the moment. She tries to make something happen, just tries to save her immortals at the back of the base as long as possible. It's now going to lose a few more units, but she has to be patient if she really wants to make something happen. Activates the barrier right here, tries to take out a few more units, but the tanks from the back are just firing like crazy, and there's actually no more that Koshkii can actually do. Like I said, even the DTs won't really help. Maybe some sort of counter pressure might have done the trick. GG, well played, and Miyako takes the first game with a very aggressive opening. We're back on Frozen Temple. It's the second game of this best of 5 series between the purple Protoss spawning to the bottom right, Koshkii, and our orange Terran leading 1-0, Miyako, who just surprised and overwhelmed her opponent with a very aggressive opening, just finding her totally off guard and totally void of units. So nothing to defend except for Dark Templars. But Miyako planned ahead and had some scans saved up for that occasion. So it was easy for her to just scan for the DTs, making them null and void while tearing apart the other units and buildings with tanks and a few Marines. So, Koshkii just going for the early pylon scout. She really wants to get inside that base before that depot goes down here and seals everything in the base off, so that she will get a good scout of what's coming her way. So, scouts the 2 refineries. This is actually a big tell here of what's Miyako going into. Well, obviously some sort of tech build, maybe even double starport Banshee. But we're going to see in just a few minutes what Miyako is up to. Miyako doesn't really like to play drawn-out macro games. I mean, she's capable of if she needs to, but if she sees a small gap in the opponent's defense that she can abuse, she definitely will. So you have to always be on the watch when you play against Miyako. So sending out the first Marine in order to get some obvious proxy positions covered. She doesn't want to be surprised by some sort of 4-gate push. No, not against Terran, probably not. I mean, especially not with Zealots. With Zealots only, you couldn't even crush that wall because you would only need 1 unit behind that wall, and SCVs could just infinitely repair these depots against the damage that Zealots can deal, because Zealots cannot shoot. So that wouldn't really work. So only 1 starport so far. We'll see what's going to get thrown out of it. In the meantime, we have a Stargate opening from Koshkii this time around. So no robo whatsoever. Yeah, in Wings of Liberty, this would have been problematic. But no, actually not that problematic. It depends. You wouldn't have had any sort of detection available because you didn't have the robo. And it would also take quite some time before you finally had some AoE tech available, but in this case you will also have the chance to build an Oracle in order to give you vision with the Revelation spell. Still not starting with it, starting with a Phoenix in this case. Miyako gets a good scan, sees everything that she needs to know about the opening of her opponent. More gateways incoming. No base yet, and this is actually why Miyako scanned. She had the SEV down here, seeing that no second base had been thrown down, and now probably this Adept is probably going to get the SEV. No, she doesn't want to spend the time to chase down that SEV, so instead sends the Adept across the other half of the map. And interestingly, Miyako as well is not trying to go for some sort of expand build. This is probably what triggered Koshkii into staying one base. After getting the initial scout with the double refinery, you can expect a tech build like this. In this case, it's early Liberator. Okay, it's actually going to be quite a similar build as the one before. So yeah, it actually is. It's actually almost the same build, but without a base this time. So this will probably hit even harder. But Koshkii this time decided not to go for a Nexus. She's seen that her opponent is probably going to stay on one base for quite some time, investing into these early 2 refineries. It's not only the refineries itself that cost the minerals you invest, but also, of course, 3 SEVs each you have to pull from mining minerals to mining gas. Thus, your mineral income will just be, well, I wouldn't say crippled, but of course your mineral income will just be less in the first few minutes. And with less minerals, you have less minerals left in order to build this command center early on. So of course it normally lays something in your build. If you go very gas heavy, you can invest it into tech and gas heavy units, but you won't have less minerals to spend them into buildings like command center. So Phoenix now shooting down what was that actually? I don't really, what was there lost? That's your lost tab. Oh, actually it was the first Liberator already killed. Wow. That was actually quite a counter. Ah, damn it, wrong. So now finally taking her own base. Yeah, the same thing we see at both opponents' bases. Like Koshkii actually did the same thing. She also prepared for a very heavy early push. And it was worth the waiting because she just shot down the first aggressive unit that Miyako had. And now both players, of course, want to expand at some point in time. A lot later than usual. Due to the early one base aggression, but of course you cannot stay on one base for long in Legacy of the Void. I mean, you couldn't even stay for long on one base in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, but even shorter in Legacy now. So eventually you just have to take a second base or the game will just end very quickly. You will just be forced to go all in very soon, and if your push just doesn't work, it's over immediately because you just don't have the resources anymore on one base to supply more units and more pressure. To keep it up, it just won't work. So yeah, like I said, both players just have to expand at some time. Miyako has her command center already done, morphed it into an orbital command, can now finally lift it down here. Koshkii just using the shade in order to see what her opponent is going to do and what kind of army composition she already has. Again, some pesky mines, but this time no early mine drop possibility. There's the first medivac out at 650. In the meantime... we still don't... do we have detection? We should have, right? We have the possibility to build something that gives us detection, but we don't have an observer yet. So, I think it's about time that Koshkii really built one. Miyako sacrifices another scan in order to get a good picture of what her opponent is up to, if she already has her second base saturated or not, what the unit mix is made of. And now she just brings her own units down here. Yeah, already 2 mineral patches have been depleted in the main base before she even took her own natural base at about 7 minutes. So, okay, both really don't want to commit to any attack. They know that the opponent prepared with a lot of units for the first wave. And thus they both know that it doesn't really make sense to move out right now, trying to make something happen. You might eventually lose a lot of your units for nothing, and that could actually seal the deal. Koshkii a little bit sooner with a third base. Let's see the worker count. 39 to 35, pretty equal. But of course Miyako has mules, and thus her income is a little bit better than that of her opponents. So, tanks being moved into medevacs, or not. Okay, she wanted to do it for a second, or was just a misclick. We don't know yet. Okay, one cyclone just patrolling over here in order to intercept any incoming warp prisms, and to stop them from warping in units like DTs maybe, or mostly adepts. I mean, a good adept warp in can still do a lot of damage to a worker line, but of course DTs would be even better if Koshkii had had the time to build one, but there it is. So now finally Miyako's moving out, just scanning over here, probably trying to get any observer killed that might have hung over her army. Sorry about that. Okay, scanning again, sacrificing a lot of scans. I like that a lot. And now Koshkii knows that her opponent is coming. I mean, she scanned once here, killed something, scanned her natural area. Okay, that's actually a nice idea, just having the Colossus over here. So since there's no real detection over here, her opponent will also have to keep firing at the Colossus. So if she scans, she will normally reveal those Colossi to be fake, and the army won't fire at these units if they are identified as fake, but now they aren't anymore. Okay, just leapfrogging the tanks a little more, even the Widow Mines, probably just trying to get the AoE damage in front of everything so that she can always attack and then retreat into the minefield and the tanks and the liberation zones. So again, it will be quite problematic here. I mean, Koshkii has a few Phoenixes, but she can't really get them into the range of the Liberators because there are Marines down here once again. And this is again a perfect setup for Miyako. She just has a perfect engagement here. Nothing that Koshkii actually can do, not really engaging with all of her units all at once, having to fight on liberation zones, which is actually never something you want to do. But sometimes you just have to if your opponent is just sieging up right in front of your base. And now even a PDD that intercepts a lot of these shots by the pylon cannons. So just perfect play out of Miyako. Again, steamrolling over her opponent. The first wave didn't work. She just was patient enough to not try it because she saw that her opponent was preparing accordingly. But the second, or actually the first push never happened, but the second push just did the trick. GG, well played. And Miyako takes the 2-0 lead. We're on Apotheosis for the third game of this best of 5. Spawning to the top left in purple, it's Koshkii. And to the bottom right in orange, we have our Terran Miyako leading 2-0. She only needs one more win to close out the series. And then she would still be undefeated in this season. Hasn't dropped a map yet. 8-0 in games in the third week of the FSL Season 1. So let's see if Koshkii can make a comeback. It's going to be tough, but we'll see what she has up her sleeves. Typical gateway expand it's probably going to be. Well, maybe not an expand if she sees what Miyako is up to this time. So this time we see the Reaper opening. So she's going to build a Reaper in order to scout her opponent, maybe get 1 or 2 probe kills if she can. Shouldn't happen against Koshkii, though. But maybe she'll make something happen. So no more information yet, but she's going to see the early command center this time, did she? No, she didn't. Ugh. That's actually a scout she really wanted to get, and now she can't because the supply depot gets dropped down here. Ugh, I don't know if I really like to be in Koshkii's position. I mean, of course, she can assume that her opponent is going for an early expand build with not seeing any tech buildings or any production buildings whatsoever in the main base, and only one gas being taken. So she, of course, Koshkii knows the build a Terran is capable of, but of course it could also be some proxy racks over here. maybe just like 2 more or something. So she doesn't really know for certain, but I think she's probably really really sure what's headed away. So Reaper, of course, wanting to get the information if there is a second base, and there is. So that's of course the first information you want to get. Now getting inside the base, Mothership Core is already ready. So yeah, trying to dance around with the Reaper a little bit, but there's also an Adept, so Miyako has to retreat for now without getting that much more of information out of her. Yeah, I mean, not much she could have seen anyways, the robotics facility, but that's also pretty clear. Like I said before, I mean, Protoss almost has to get a robotics facility first against Terran, because like I said before, there's always the threat of Widow Mines dropping inside your mineral line. So yeah, you just have to have early protection. Detection. Protection as well, but detection in this case is more important, and that's why, like I said, most Protosses are actually forced into the Robo first build. You can of course try to do something else, but it's risky, it's gambling. It might pay off, but in the long run it will probably not. So Twilight Council almost done. I don't know why this one was triggered. Probably because of the Reaper. Looks like the Reaper, yeah, I think the Reaper got killed here. It did. So yeah, Reaper just trying to get behind the middle line once more. Photon Overcharge was being fired up, and it killed the Reaper immediately. So Dark Shrine right afterwards. This time Koshkii makes sure that it won't get revealed by another scan. I don't know if I really like the Dark Shrine once more. Maybe she's just thinking that Miyako won't guess or won't think of a Dark Shrine again. She will not expect it. But so far Miyako has always been more than prepared for any Dark Shrine play. So this time we have a mine and a few Marines inside a medevac. Let's see how much damage she's going to make happen with this one. She also has a Cyclone once more. That's pretty typical build for a lot of Terrans right now against Protoss. A lot of Terrans are very, very, very afraid of the Warp Prism Adept drop. Actually getting even the Mech Field Accelerator. What the hell does this do? Increases Cyclone lock-on damage, deals 400 damage. Okay, haven't even seen that being researched yet. So this is actually quite interesting. So there's the drop. Oh, nice mine here, right on the middle of the, right on top of the ramp. So whenever a unit now tries to move past that, it can just actually explode. Yeah, there are the DTs, and now it doesn't even matter that there's a scan, because DTs even do damage when they are revealed, and a hell of a lot as well. They can actually kill unupgraded Marines in one strike. So yeah, you always have to be careful. But of course, there's the Widow Mine, just getting 1 kill already. And where's the detection? I mean, we had the possibility to get detection, but we didn't. What the hell? What the actual hell? Is this supposed to be a Warp Prism? Is there a Warp Prism headed this way? No, this is Miyako's. Okay. I don't... Oh, there it is. It was purple and I didn't see it. Okay, it was the Warp Prism just being rallied to the front, so she really actually wanted to do a DT drop once more, but Miyako just got ahead of her and attacked her, so Koshkii was forced to warp in the DTs in the back of her, or back at her home base in order to defend. Yeah, still a bit problematic. I don't know if she actually realized what's going on, or why she's not producing any detection to... Oh, there it is. Okay, there we have the Observer finally just moving forward. And the DTs should actually be able to... Well, Miyako finally realizes she could just burrow this mine closer to the mineral line. Oh, even saving it from this photon cannon. But no, there's only one probe! Hero probe killing the mine. Quite nicely done. So in the meantime, we have the Warp Prism just deploying some Dark Templars into the main base of Miyako. But yeah, that was actually what the Cyclone was mostly for. We now actually saw it in action. The Cyclone with the extra damage just shooting down the flying Warp Prism pretty easily. So now the DT is unfortunately in close of that missile turret, so not much damage dealt here as well. So that's again 2 DTs worth of resources just down the drain. Okay, we still have some Scouting Adept over here. We'll probably get shot down by the Liberator in just a second. Or maybe even by the Bioforce that's over here. In the meantime, Koshkii takes her own 3rd Nexus as well, while Miyako's 3rd base is already built, but it has to be flown over. Will only take a few seconds though, so a little advantage economy-wise for Miyako here. Also already building the weapons upgrade, but Koshkii has already done it. Is she chrono boosting her upgrades? She isn't, but still she's a little bit ahead. Second forge incoming, so that she will then be able to do some double upgrading going on. So Liberator just obviously got shot at by something, has to retreat right now. Oh yeah, probably by the photon overcharge. Okay, has to retreat right now. Will probably be repaired, I guess, or maybe not. We have 2 Liberators almost out of health, but yeah, there is the SCV just trying to heal them up or repair them up or whatever you want to call it. Nice sensor tower over here. Miyako doesn't want to be surprised by any more warp prism shenanigans, so whenever Koshkii would try to fly in a warp prism at the back of her base, she will see way ahead of time. Sacrifices another scan in order to get a good grasp of what her opponent is building up to. And yeah, in the meantime, they just let themselves do, which is actually something that Miyako normally doesn't really like to do, because she knows that a bio-based army will have a good time until a certain point in the game against Protoss. And once Protoss manages to get up to that high-tech army, it can get pretty difficult to destroy the Protoss Death Ball. So normally as a Terran, you either want to make enough damage done before the mid-game ends, so that you can just kill the Protoss during the mid-game or at the end of the mid-game, because you just managed to do so much damage to them that they won't have enough unit to contest your army. But in this case, and Miyako knows that, she didn't manage to do that much damage, so she now has to sit here because she can't engage that army directly. But the longer the game goes, the more difficult it gets for her to beat Koshkii's army with a pure bio force. So normally she has to tech into something with a bit more power, and we'll see if she manages to do that, or if Koshkii will just overwhelm her with her high tech army. I think there's still a small timing window where Miyako might something happen, but it's not going to be there for long. And now she moves out. Or does she? Okay, just sending your whole army on patrol. Looks nice. But no, I don't really know if she really is certain what to do now, building more starports. Maybe she wants to get up more Liberators and mines. That seems to be her plan right now, getting the upgrades up. But of course Koshkii is doing the same. She's now researching the extended thermal lands in order to get Colossi and a little bit more of reliable AoE damage. There's actually only three choices for a Protoss according when it comes to AoE damage. You either use Disruptors, which are the new unit in Legacy of the Void, Colossi, which were nerfed in Legacy of the Void, or just High Templar, which are actually quite the same in Legacy of the Void. The biggest problem with Disruptors is that their damage is actually a bit unreliable. You can only fire them so and so often, and then they go on cooldown. You can't fire with them anymore. And if you hit the bio ball with that disruptor ball, you just tear it apart and wreck it like crazy. But if the Terran just avoids it, it won't do much damage. And now, finally, Miyako attacks at the third base. She has her Liberators already set up some liberation zones, so Miyako has to be careful. She can't really engage because her own buildings work against her right now. So Miyako carefully advances forward, just killing off all of the probes. Ugh, Koshkii not even saving those. That is actually quite a big mistake. She should have really tried to take away those probes of her, and now probably even going to kill the third Nexus. It's not that bad of a loss because the gold mines the gold resources have already mined out anyways, and she already has one base going up here and has already one down here. So Miyako just seems as if she wanted to do some damage over here, now better retreating. She knows she doesn't want to engage through that choke point. So yeah, that's actually the best decision she could make. But she tries to get in from the other angle. There's a much wider ramp, much more surface area she can attack into. And again, setting up the liberation zones. And this time, Koshkii has to engage again right under those liberation zones. Several of them right behind each other. And it seems as if again Miyako's supply is just rising. More units are streaming in from behind. The AoE damage just not doing the necessary damage. And fighting under the liberation zones again proves to be a big mistake by Koshkii this time. So it's only a few more DTs in there, but I think Miyako should again have a lot of scans available. I want to stay here, I don't want to have to take a look at the... Oh, maybe she doesn't. Oh, this time, there it is. So DTs getting killed off as well. They're not the saving grace. Unpowering all of the gateways. GG, well played! And Miyako takes the series with a convincing 3-0. Being still undefeated in maps during this season.